Hello, hello. Happy Friday. It is Friday the 13th, actually. Friday, November 13th. This is your stimulus package update and Q&A. I am Jamie Troll, financial literacy coach and profit strategist and CPA. Lots of different titles there. That is here to give you an update and also answer your questions. So every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, I am here live on my YouTube channel, Jamie Troll. Make sure to subscribe if you're watching me over on YouTube. I'm also live in my Facebook group, Financial Literacy for Women Business Owners. Make sure you join us over there if you're not there. And also on my Facebook business page. So wherever you're watching me, say hello. Tell me how you're doing today. It's a sunny day outside, a little chilly, but sunny day outside here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'd love to hear from you guys. So while I'm waiting to make sure you guys can hear me, I will give you a little bit of an update. So there isn't really much to update as far as stimulus negotiations. Obviously, center stage over the last few weeks has been the election. So we sort of took last week off because we knew there wasn't going to be any news last week from a stimulus package perspective. There's still not really a ton of news to be updating on. There is some negotiation happening, but it is still sort of waiting to see what's going to happen with regards to kind of the transition of powers and what goes on over the next few months. We still don't know who's going to have Senate control, so that's going to play into this as well. So there's a lot that we are still waiting on right now. So with that, a lot of people have been asking me what I think about the timing of another stimulus package. I really can't tell you. I think actually where we are sort of widened, the gap has kind of widened, it seems like, from where the parties were prior to the election to where they are now. So prior to the election, where we kind of landed was the Democratic proposal was about $2.2 trillion in stimulus funding. The Republicans had come up to $1.9 trillion. Obviously, there were differences more than just the money elements. Also, there were differences in what they were spending on. They did not agree on that prior to the election. They said they'd pick it up after the election. Well, now it seems like it's kind of widened again, and the Democrats are now going for a minimum of $3.3 trillion, which is closer to what their package was they passed back in May. They had a package that passed the House back in May. That was the first HEROES Act. Now they're kind of closer back to that place. I think likely because of how the election went from a presidential perspective, they've now gone to the higher end. Republicans, meanwhile, are going back down to sort of more in the territory of what their skinny bill looked like, which is closer to 500 to 600 billion. So we're talking about 3.3 trillion, 500 to 600 billion. All of a sudden, we've widened again. So what does that mean? I don't know. There's a lot of dynamics at play here. There are a lot of things that we're just going to have to wait and see how they play out to see where we end up, right? Obviously, the question is, does anything happen between now and January 20th? We will see. And then after January 20th, that's another opportunity. Once there is a new Congress and a new president that comes in, then there may be a different look at it. But it is going to be interesting because I know I've heard from a lot of you guys that right now, you are business owners. A lot of you guys, most of you guys who watch me are business owners or self-employed individuals, and you're starting to see what's happening. A lot of places are starting to shut down again. The numbers do tend to be going up. So I know that there is a lot of worry and consternation out there about what is going to happen. So hopefully, again, I continue to hope that, that we will kind of triumph in all of this, right? So that people will be able to come together, come up with something that will actually help Americans get through this. Some people are doing okay. Some people are really still struggling and have been for a while. So know that I'm out here watching the news for you guys. I want to make sure as things come in and as new things are passed that I am telling you what those things are so that you can make sure to to get in if you are in need of funding, if you're looking for help, still that there will be avenues open to you. So just keep checking back. I will keep updating you. Like I said, every Friday at 1:30 Central, I am here doing an update on all things stimulus package. So I'd love to take any of your questions. If you have questions on PPP forgiveness, I know a lot of people, that's been where a lot of questions in this arena are right now. If you have questions on EIDL, unemployment, anything else that you are wondering about, please feel free to ask. That's what this session is for, and I'll take a look and try to answer your questions. One thing I do want to bring up that has come up kind of in the news, and there are some clickbaity type articles and YouTube videos out there to watch out for. You guys, I'm never going to be clickbaity. I'm never going to try to lure people in with, misunderstanding headlines, right? But there are a lot out there right now, specifically around the PPP, where Treasury has come out now with some additional questionnaires and things like that that are requiring people to basically prove, essentially, their injury and that they took PPP in good faith, okay? There's been a lot of articles. What those articles miss, and they have caused a lot of panic among people, thinking that now they're going to get in trouble for taking a PPP loan because they can't adequately prove that they needed it based on this questionnaire and the additional documents that are being asked of people. Importantly, that's only for loans over $2 million. So back months and months ago, they made that call to say anybody who gets a PPP loan that's under $2 million is essentially going to be assumed to have done that in good faith. They are not going to come back now and question that and put you at jeopardy for getting your PPP loan forgiven or having some kind of penalty for even taking one in the first place. If your loan is under $2 million, you guys are okay. All right. Just making sure that people know, because there has been a lot of frenzy. I've seen people trying to post things into the group about it. And it is not true. Only if your loan is over $2 million is that something that you need to worry about, which I don't think is many of you. So, okay. So let me take a look. Happy Friday the 13th. Okay. So my husband and I didn't apply for PPP because we were a new business and hadn't made money. Should we have? So if you hadn't made any money, meaning you hadn't been in a profit situation, then you likely would not have been able to get a PPP loan to begin with. So, and you also would have had to be in business by, I believe for PPP, it was mid-February to be able to get one in the first place. So if you have not made money, i.e. made a profit in your business, no, PPP would not have been the option for you. Getting an EIDL loan, possibly, but even there, it depends. If you've actually made some revenue, just haven't made a profit, there's a possibility that you could get an EIDL loan. Those are still open, by the way, as far last I checked, they were, but they are loans. So they are low interest loans, but they are loans. So you could go check the SBA website, go to sba.gov. You actually apply for an EIDL directly through the SBA website. You could also look into grants in your area. A lot of states were giving grants, things like that. So yes, you would be okay. Now, one group of people that did not apply for PPPs, a lot of people who didn't have employees, but were profitable, did not apply for PPP because they thought they don't have payroll, right? So they thought, okay, I don't have payroll, so therefore I can't get a payroll protection program loan. That wasn't the case. So that was something that I was continually having to tell people because it was a misunderstanding. You can be self-employed. You could even be a gig worker and have gotten PPP as long as you are profitable. So if they open it again and you missed out the first time, make sure to keep checking in because I want to give you guys all the guidance on how to apply, how to make sure to do it correctly, and how to make sure that you're getting any kind of money, especially PPP money, which is forgivable. So stick around because there could be a second round of PPP that would be both to people who have gotten it before and also potentially opening to people who hadn't gotten it. That all would be wrapped up in the next stimulus package, though, and requires Congress to come to some type of agreement. So, okay, let me finish that. I think you're talking about EIDL. So EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That is an SBA loan that is available. Basically, usually it's for things like tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, right? It's an economic injury. It's a disaster loan from the government. It's low interest. In some cases, in most cases, it doesn't require personal guarantees. If it's under $25,000, it doesn't require collateral. It's a very kind of preferential loan from a terms perspective for people who are borrowing. And it's only available if you're in a disaster area. Well, COVID, the entire United States has been declared a disaster area, and therefore EIDL loans are available for that. So you can go check that out. Again, sba.gov is where you're going to want to go to see more information on EIDL loans. You do have to pay those back, though, so that is important. They are low interest, but you do have to pay them back. Okay, let's see, Megan. Okay. Happy to help. You want to know more about EIDL? Okay, you received a 10K EIDL and 5K PPP. I use my PPP but haven't touched the EIDL. Business is so slow. Can I use the EIDL to pay myself if bookings? Now, I have one quick question for you because this is important, Megan, and if you can tell me down below, are you talking about the EIDL loan, i.e. you accepted a loan, you signed paperwork for the EIDL loan, you went into the portal, got the loan, or did you get an EIDL advance/grant? Those were given out $1,000 per employees for people who applied before they ended that, which I think they ended it in around July. So let me know which one you're talking about because the treatment is very different depending on what you're talking about. I'm just going to read the rest. Or should I apply for unemployment? I'm terrified about what this will mean for taxes next year. And also tell me, Megan, because it depends on what business structure you are. Are you a corp, meaning an S corp or a C corp, or are you a sole proprietor, LLC, or something like that? The answer can very much depend, but I'll talk a little bit generally to it. I'm going to look and see if you have answered either of these. Those are kind of my caveats on a lot of this. Okay, so yes, SBA EIDL loan. So you're talking about the loan, okay, and you're a sole prop. Great. Okay. So you're talking about the loan and you're a sole prop. So the EIDL loan, yes, you can pay yourself with an EIDL loan. You don't, as a sole proprietor, that's not going to be a taxable event. Okay. So you can pay yourself, but do remember that is a loan, you do have to pay it back. So you are essentially financing your own paycheck. I generally don't recommend that. I actually think it's better to get unemployment to pay yourself. So if you're still not working and you would qualify for unemployment, I would definitely get unemployment and then use the EIDL for expenses you need to continue to pay in your business, like operating expenses. So I would do that. If you get unemployment or if you don't qualify for unemployment and it's not enough, right? You can pay yourself with the EIDL. It's not going to have a tax consequence, but remember, you have to pay that money back, right? So you're taking a loan for your own paycheck, which is there's not really a return on that. You know what I mean? The best way to use a loan is to keep your business going so that you can continue to bring in revenue that can fund you, right? That for me, that's the best return you can usually get. So I do prefer that people handle it that way. I just think that that's going to be smarter to make sure that if you put that money in your business, hopefully you're getting more than that amount of return that can keep your business going, and then unemployment could potentially pay you. But yes, you can pay yourself with the EIDL. The caveat there is don't pay yourself. I probably would not pay yourself with EIDL at the same time you're paying with PPP. If you've already exhausted all those PPP funds and you've had kind of that 10 weeks of time period that you've paid yourself with PPP, after that, you could pay yourself with EIDL. Don't pay yourself more than you normally would, which is a little bit soft. It's not as hard of a number as it is with PPP, right? But look at what kind of draws are you typically taking out of your business normally? And you could pay. So if you normally were paying yourself $5,000 out of your business a month, you could potentially do the same thing with your EIDL. I don't know that it's the best use, but again, it's better than probably running up sort of your own credit card, personal debt, and things like that to bridge the gap. Let's see. Current expenses are paid via credit card and paid off each week, month. Will that mess up the EIDL loan? No, you can pay. So you can pay your expenses. So importantly, with people have asked, can you pay credit card expenses with your EIDL? And the answer is maybe. And the reason the answer is maybe is because paying your credit card is not an approved expense for EIDL. But the things that you are paying your credit card for are normal operating expenses in your business, i.e. inventory, operating expenses like insurance, right? Like any kind of normal operating expense you have in your business. If that's what you're paying with your EIDL, then yes, you can use, or that's what you're paying with credit card, then yes, you can use your EIDL money to pay that credit card, to pay those expenses. Now, if you have a credit card bill that you've had for a couple of years and you've had a running balance on, I probably wouldn't pay off the entire thing with your EIDL. That probably is not really the intention. It's for costs that are operating costs that have happened from the pandemic, essentially onward. So, but in general, yes, you can pay off your credit card. Now, you should be separating everything to make sure you're only paying your business piece though. So hopefully you have a business only credit card, or at least a credit card that you're only putting business expenses on, because you don't want to commingle. You want to be able to track exactly what you spent that money on. You either transfer it to yourself and that's payment to yourself, that's your pay, or you use it to pay your business expenses. Either way, I want you guys to use my EIDL tracker and write down all the things that you're spending that money on, because if you are ever audited, you can hand that over and say, here's where my money went, right? And you have that documentation. That's jamietrell.com/EIDL tracker. Here, I'll put it here for you guys. jamietrell.com/EIDL tracker. If you don't have it, it's free and you can use it to track all those expenses. And then you can have it in case the SBA ever comes a knocking, which hopefully it doesn't, but okay. So you have the tracker. That's great. Okay. So it depends. You can watch the beginning, basically. That will likely be a part of the next stimulus package, if ever passed. Something will pass eventually. It's just a matter of when and how much, right? So the can has been kicked. We've been waiting on this since really, it's been months. We really thought it was going to happen by the beginning of August. It did not. And here we are in November, kind of still in the same spot that we were. So I will be here letting you guys know about how this is progressing. Every Friday, I'm here at 1:30, and you can check back in to make sure you know what's happening. Okay, let's see. Texas PUA is ending in December. Just received a letter from the Texas. Yes. So technically, it does end December 31st. So PUA is Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. That is the extension of unemployment to people who would not normally qualify, such as people who are self-employed. So because of that, that is set to expire, that will be kind of a line in the sand. So the hope is that Congress will pass something by then so that is able to continue. Again, though, that we had a similar instance where at the end of July, the additional, $600 of federal pandemic unemployment compensation, FPUC, when that expired at the end of July, we thought that was going to be the impetus for the new stimulus, and they still did not come to an agreement. So the answer is it may get extended. It hopefully will get extended. I don't know if it will get extended by December 31st. It's not impossible either that it doesn't get extended. You have to go off of it for a couple of weeks, and then sometime in January or February, a new stimulus passes and you can jump back on. I wish that this was a little bit more fluid, right? But unfortunately, I wouldn't count on it. So I would be looking at other avenues, right? Other things you might be able to do, other ways you might be able to pivot to be able to bring business in if you are currently relying on PUA to pay your bills. Okay. Let's see. Thanks, Bree. Little known fact, y'all. I'm going to tell you, I got it at Costco. It's super soft. I'll probably regret saying that, but I got this at Costco, so I like a good deal. What can I say? Okay, let's see. Let me see. At what point should we stop applying for PUA? My business is not back where it was, but it is getting back there. Still not able to pay myself though. When you say stop applying, I'm assuming that you've been accepted. You mean stop certifying for PUA, or are you still having trouble getting it in the first place? So let me know that answer. But ultimately, it varies by state. So the requirements to be able to be on unemployment are going to vary by state. For some of them, it's how many days a week are you working. For others, it's how much are you making. You want to look into how your state has shown those guidelines of, as a self-employed person, how much are you supposed to claim? Is it your total revenue? Is it your revenue minus certain expenses? Is it your revenue minus all expenses? It really does vary, unfortunately, from state to state. Even though PUA is a federally funded program, it is administered by the states. And so the states have not been fully consistent as to how they have rolled that out. So I would read the rules as you're doing those certifications. Make sure you're reading the rules really well and that you can actually certify that you can still get PUA. If you need to be claiming income, make sure to be claiming that income. It may reduce or eliminate your benefits. If you get to the point where it's constantly eliminating your benefits, well, it probably doesn't make sense to continue certifying for unemployment anymore. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so you just have to read the rules and what you're certifying. Make sure that you're reading and doing all the things that you need to be doing. You lost PUA as you worked part-time 1 day a week and they redid your claim and you did qualified for regular. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. Again, like depending on where you are, they're going to have different rules around whether it's a specific dollar amount or whether it's a amount of time that you're working. Really kind of hard, right? We have to remember, a lot of states are using their existing unemployment systems, which are built for employees, right? So the wording a lot of times, you guys have probably seen this, even when you're doing PUA, the wording a lot of times still feels, it's very confusing for people because when you're self-employed or when you're a small business owner, the verbiage is a little bit different. It's not always as clear exactly what you made and when, right? So that's just a caveat to kind of read what your state is giving you. Go on their FAQs on the website if you haven't. Make sure to read them. A lot of them have tutorials for how to fill out the certification form. It is important that you're putting in your best faith effort. If you have a lot of questions, you can call them. Depending on the state, you might be able to get through or you might not. I think it's gotten a little bit better from where it was several months ago, where it was basically impossible to get through, especially in places like California. But from what I've heard in a lot of states, that's getting a lot better. So if you do have questions on how to do something, you can give them a call as well. But I always recommend, scouring what your state has put out there, because a lot of states have put out various FAQs and things to help people who are on PUA. Let's see. Let's see. Can you confirm the interest for EIDL loans start accruing from the day the loan is funded? Yes. So from the time you get it, it is accruing interest. Again, use my EIDL tracker. It has an interest calculator too. And that was something that I wanted to put out there because I think people don't realize how much interest you can, especially if you have a sizable loan, you can accrue it in 1 year, right? So that interest gets kind of put into your loan over that 30-year term, but you are accruing interest. So, if you got more than you need, it does benefit you if you know you're not going to need the whole amount to pay back a portion of it or all of it if you know you're not going to need it. Now, or you could wait, use it as an insurance policy is kind of what some people are doing, but you are accruing interest. Payments aren't due for a year, but interest is accruing. Okay, let's see. So you're saying you can get through to unemployment, have your wages corrected, but kept applying, certifying. Should I bother to keep trying to get it corrected? To get back paid for the unemployment they should have been awarding? It's up to you, right? I mean, it is one of those, is the is the benefit worth the trade-off of your time and energy? So I think that's something that is going to be made on an individual situation. If things are dire, then yeah, I probably would put that effort in. If that effort from a mental perspective is going to be too much, and I know a lot of people are just like, I'm not even going to put more energy into this because it's taking more than you're getting from it. Again, different states are different. I don't know what your chances are of being able to get that. I don't know your specific situation. So always caveat, you guys, I always have to caveat, I'm not your CPA. I am a CPA. I'm not your CPA. I'm not your financial advisor. So I can't tell you specifically what to do in your case. You just have to kind of think and look at yourself and your situation and determine if you think that extra stress is worth it. Okay. You're right. You're right. I hope she's not on here. It's Friday. This is my cozy Friday clothes. I'm allowed to wear Costco clothes on Fridays. You guys, I have real pants on today. That's a win. That's a win. Okay, what else do we have? It's mostly, I think I got to most of your questions. You're welcome. You're welcome. You guys, I got a couple more minutes. If you guys have anything else that you want to ask me on any of these comments. Okay, I got a couple more. Good. Let's see. Let's see. Does applying and receiving PPP forgiveness in 2020 versus 2021 impacting net income for an S Corp with employees? Just trying to plan for a possible 40. Okay, so here's what I'll say. And I'm curious if Bree has any thoughts on this too. And I'll put them up, Bree, if you do. My understanding on this, because it is going to be a timing nightmare. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of PPP taxability. I do have a video on YouTube that specifically talks about PPP taxability. So if you want to go find it, just search for Jamie Trull. Find my channel. I have a PPP playlist on different things, and one of them is on the taxability of PPP. The income's not taxable, but the expenses are not deductible. So this is going to get into a weird thing where, okay, if your expenses that you paid with PPP aren't deductible, but that's only once your loan is forgiven, right? So if you don't get your loan forgiven before filing your taxes, then how does that work, right? So there's a lot of questions and a lot of additional guidance we need from the IRS on exactly how this is going to play out in real time. Does that mean you don't deduct the expenses next year, but technically you paid those expenses with PPP this year? So that doesn't make a lot of sense either. So I think that we're going to have to wait and see what the IRS says. That fact also, by the way, may change. It's not impossible that the idea of not being able to deduct your PPP expenses, right? The expenses you pay with PPP, that may get changed in the next stimulus bill too. So because the fact that you have 10 months to apply for forgiveness, there's a lot of confusion on what does it mean if you apply now versus later. Does when you file your tax return matter? I still think there's too much up in the air to give any real advice on that. And I would question anybody that's giving like too concrete of advice on when you should apply based on taxability, because we just don't have that information really yet, not concretely enough. So I feel like anybody that's really giving you advice on that is probably guessing at this point. So I don't want to be a person that guesses. I will say we're waiting on that guidance. It's really unfortunate because that makes it hard to tax plan, right? For this year, but it is the way that it is right now. Honestly, it is where we just are going to have to see kind of how this plays out and if they get what that additional guidance looks like that they may give us. Because right now there's just not a whole heck of a lot out there. Okay, let's see. Will you be able to write off EIDL loan interest accrued in 2020? Will be received at the end of the year interest statement from the SBA. It depends on if you are an accrual-based or cash basis taxpayer. If you are a cash basis taxpayer, then generally you deduct interest when paid. So considering you got the EIDL this year, and if you don't pay any of that interest, it would be a deduction in 2021 when that interest portion gets paid. So importantly, just to kind of level set with everybody, loan payments are not a deduction. The full loan payment, only the interest. So the principal that you're paying back on your loan, not a deduction. only the interest you're paying. Why is that the case? Well, when you got the loan, it's also not income. So make sure y'all aren't putting your EIDL loan on your P&L as income, because you do not want to get taxed on that as income, okay? So that should be a balance sheet liability. Okay, so a notes payable or short-term loan payable, whatever it is, or long-term loan payable, whatever it is. But that should go on your balance sheet, not on your income statement. That is not income to you. Now, the EIDL advance grant, that's a different story. That should kind of be separated on your P&L, but that does hit your P&L. But with a loan, that goes on your balance sheet. And as you pay it, it comes off of your balance sheet, the principal, and the interest is what goes to the P&L. The interest is what is deductible as an expense. So that's it. But typically, most small businesses are cash basis taxpayers, in which case you would take that deduction when you pay it. If you are an accrual basis taxpayer, it's a little bit different. But typically it's going to follow those guidelines. Okay, and then I'm enjoying y'all's love of the Costco clothes. Like, I mean, it's cute, right? It's cute. It's got stars. You should feel it. It's really, really soft. I'm glad y'all are on board. I don't think they have it anymore. It was like a month ago. So, okay. There was one more I missed. Okay. Gina asked, do you have any recommendations for work from home office business deductions? I don't think it changed in 2019 that I'm aware of, but maybe that's something, again, that Bree has insight into that I don't. You can deduct your home office there. I do have a video on this, actually. That's going to be the best thing for me to send you to, because Gina, you're watching me on YouTube. Go to my channel and search through. I'm trying to remember when that was, but it's maybe been 2 months since I did it. I did a whole training specifically on home office deductions that you should be able to find out there. It's got like a free calculator and everything with it too, and it'll give you a lot of tips and guidelines on what to do to maximize your home office deduction. So if you haven't looked at that, go check out YouTube, because it is out there somewhere. Hopefully, if you can't find it, let me know. I did answer that question earlier on. If you want to go back and listen, the answer is yes, but there are some things to think about when you're paying yourself with EIDL. Okay, last question. What if your EIDL grant now has to be paid due to getting PPP? Should I put it under income or no? So what you're talking about is when you determine your PPP forgiveness, right? You're going to determine your PPP forgiveness. Hopefully you're forgiven for the whole thing. So let's say you got a $30,000 PPP loan and a $2,000 EIDL grant. If you spend the $30,000 accurately, you would put on your application, I'm forgiven for $30,000. Then you would subtract the $2,000 EIDL advance. That's the rule right now. Asterisk, that could change with another stimulus. So that's another reason that some people have decided to put off applying for PPP forgiveness in case that little rule changes. But right now, that's how it stands. You would then be forgiven for $28,000. The $2,000 would not be payable right away unless you wanted to do that. The $2,000 turns into basically a PPP loan. So basically your EIDL advance, your PPP loan gets fully forgiven, but your EIDL advance gets turned into a PPP loan. What does that mean? Well, it's payable over 2 or 5 years, depending on when you got it. Your paperwork should say at 1% interest. So it's a very, very low interest loan that you would be paying off over that time period. So it's probably a very small amount every single month that you would be paying off. You can pay it all at once or not. But basically, that's how it would work. It would kind of be transitioning into a PPP loan. So because of that, because it's a loan, it's still gonna sit on your balance sheet. And as you pay it, it comes off your balance sheet, and only the interest is an expense on your P&L. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes some sense. Again, though, if that is something that is important to you, it may not hurt to wait. You have 10 months from the end of your 24 weeks to apply for forgiveness. So if you want to wait and see if they take away that funny business with the EIDL advance, you can. Now, if they were to pass that later, could they potentially forgive those loans? Maybe, right? Maybe. So I would think about that when you are deciding if it's time to apply now or later. Okay. And remember, no payments are due until after you've gone through the forgiveness process. So if you go through, and here's what I'll say, if you're not sure if your entire PPP loan is going to be forgiven, I would potentially wait. And there are some caveats to that. I won't get into it, but it could be an idea to wait, because as soon as you go through that process, if there's a piece that isn't forgiven, you're going to start, like, those payments are going to start being due faster. You can defer those payments further if you wait on forgiveness. Now, don't wait too long that you forget and then you don't go through the process. But I know a lot of people are chomping at the bit to really kind of get forgiven. You can absolutely do it. And for some people, I think the mental load that takes is worth it. But if you want to wait and see what changes, it may not be a terrible idea to wait it out as well. So you got to kind of look inside yourself and see what makes the most sense for you. Thank you. Y'all are sweet. And yes, I got this probably, I don't know, it's been maybe 2 months now. I love my camera. It makes my Costco sweater look even better. Okay. All right. So, oh, that's a good point. That's a good point, Bree. So Gina, maybe, I don't know, if you are a employee, then yes, your home office deduction could have changed. If you're a business owner, though, nothing changed this year that I'm aware of that would impact how you would calculate that deduction. Okay. Here we go. This is Bree. Yeah. Wait to apply for forgiveness. What a disaster of trying to get repaid. Yes, if they end up being forgiven. It's going to be a little bit of a mess. I got to say it, the only time I think it really is like you probably should go ahead and apply, if you are in a position where you are going to have to lay off a bunch of people between now and like December 31st, okay? If you feel like you've got to lay off some people, you can't pay them, you would want to then apply probably to give yourself the best chance of not having your forgiveness reduced by much. Then it could make sense to apply earlier rather than later. Okay. I think, I wonder if this is working. JamieTrell.com/Gusto. Try that. Nope. That's a different thing. Nope. Gusto PPP. Hang on. I'm going to try .com/Gusto PPP. Try that link. I think that works. That was it. That was an article that I wrote for Gusto about PPP forgiveness and when to apply. And I talk about that one caveat where in certain cases, it might make sense to apply now versus later. If you're going to have to do some layoffs, that could impact your ability to get forgiveness. But for most everybody else, if that's not a problem, you can probably wait. It's only going to get easier to apply. The rules are only going to get easier. They're not going to get harder. So that's important for people to know. It's only going to get more flexible going forward if you wait. Potentially less documentation you'd have to provide, potentially waiving of some of the rules. Like that's the direction it's been, where in the beginning it was really, really like that first forgiveness application that came out, Bree knows, I was like, this is awful. And they've since, I think, recognized that and started to remedy some of these problems over time that I probably could have told them they were going to have the second that they put that out. So anyway, okay, guys. Y'all are awesome. And I love you. And look, I said we had a couple minutes and then I stayed here another 10 minutes. Go figure. But I'm going to let y'all go and have a wonderful weekend. And I will be back here next week to give you any updates if there are any. Talk to you later.